Nice of it to give me a forced tutorial that doesn't work. I was liking what I played of this, but it doesn't work. Oh, okay. I don't get the point of that mechanic. Weird. Bug. Yeah, this game is pretty ugly. It's pretty ugly. Not a good looking game at all, but you know, I can look past that. I don't need I don't need top of the line graphics to enjoy a game. The game is very ugly. The pixel art is I don't know the word for it. It's not detailed. But this game was made by one person, so you kind of have to look at it like Assault Spy. The gameplay is pretty good so far. I'm still getting the hang of it, but I don't know how much the art style, the poor graphics is gonna affect the combat though, because that's one thing about Assault Spy is it's 3D, so the fact that the animations aren't like super great, it still works. But when you have stiff animation in a melee focused game like this, it can negatively affect things. I'm curious like how it's gonna be later on. The graphics are like the only thing that's off-putting about this game. It's very ugly. The sprites aren't very good. I feel like everything but the character sprites looks great. Oh, it's really hard to do though. I think the fact that it's overhead helps, but right now I can't always tell what the enemies are doing because the sprites are very small and they're not detailed. I don't think it will be that much of an issue. Gun guys, range guys, always annoying. Every game. seems like they want you to use that. I don't know if you're invincible during that, though. That's the thing. Are you invincible during that or not? I wish this game was not overhead. This game is cool, but it's so hard to tell what's going on. It keeps zooming out. I would have rather had it just be like normal perspective. That and the fact that the animation's not good. The problem is, like, this game is in early access, and they obviously can't fix that. That's a lot to ask a solo developer to do. But that's my biggest problem with this game. The sprites are too small. I guess that's how they're able to make the game, but sprites just aren't very detailed. Game kind of hurts my eyes, actually. Like NeoWiz games, normally they have like really good pixel art. I feel like this is somebody who, like, they're not good at making, like, character sprites. The rest of the game looks fine. My problem with it is, you know, what matters is the sprites, especially in a combo, you know, counter-heavy game. You need to be able to see what's going on. I think the art style on that is, like, the worst part of it. I'm sure I'll like it more later, but that's my first observation playing it. You know, the enemies don't really have startup. They don't have wind up to their animations. They just kind of go into the attack, which is just an art style problem. That's not really a problem with how the game's designed. I hate to say it, but I think that game, it would have been, the animation would be conveyed better if it was in 3D. That's why, like, Assault Spy works. Assault Spy did not try to do pixel art. I think Assault Spy as a game would be a lot worse if they had used pixel art to make that. The fact that he used 3D, it prevented that problem. Could always tell what the enemies were doing. It was very clear. The game's okay, I guess. I mean, it seems like it's got potential, but the graphics really don't do it any favors. A lot of the NeoWiz games are pretty similar. They have, you know, they're action games. They have beautiful pixel art. They're very pleasing to look at, but uh, the combat's not as involved as that game I was just playing. But no, the game is fun. It's just the sprites are bad. I hate to say it, the sprites are really bad. They don't do a good job of telling you the information you need. Like, what is this enemy doing? How far are they into their attack and stuff? And like all that is, it's very awkward in that game. You can't tell what's going on. And then when it zooms out, it gets worse because the sprites are already small and they're not detailed. I think that game has a lot of potential. It's just the only real problem I have with it is the sprites are not good at conveying information. And unfortunately, when your game is all about fighting, I mean, that's kind of something you need. They don't have like a story or like loot or co-op or anything to kind of like lighten the burden on the combat needing to be really good. All the game has is combat. I kind of had a feeling that game would be like that, though. I feel bad for the developer. A guy knows how to make combat, that's for sure. But I really feel like he should have gotten somebody else to do the character sprites. I mean, there are artists like that. There are pixel artists that can only do backgrounds. They can do like the other assets of the game, but they can't do characters. That's why there's like usually like background artists and character artists and stuff. The guy is trying to do all that by himself, and bless his heart. You look at like it's a really weird disconnect in that game. The environments you're in are beautiful. They look completely fine. It doesn't look bad at all. But then the sprites look so much worse. I feel like I don't know how he learned how to make games or whatever, but it feels like game design and like the background art he should have done himself, but like the sprites, they make it really awkward compared to like other stuff that looks like that, like Hyper Light Drifter, Skull and stuff. Like those games do a really good job of telling you like, okay, this enemy is this far into this animation, and you can tell when to move. That's a bummer though. I mean, that's not really something you can fix with a patch. I doubt the publisher is giving him enough money to change the sprites. And I wouldn't want a solo developer to do that. As somebody who runs a channel by himself, I wouldn't want the guy to crunch himself to death doing that. But it's definitely unfortunate. The That game has a great foundation, but visually it's a mess. Visually, the characters are a mess. Everything else is fine. It's like the opposite of like old like cartoons and stuff where they would make sure the characters are animated very well, but then the backgrounds you could tell that they would phone those in. They would recycle them a lot. That game feels like the opposite. Like, he did not phone in the environments, but I'd rather have worse environments, and just like focus on making sure the characters I can tell what they're doing. That's kind of one thing Assault Spy does. Assault Spy has very boring environments. There's a parking lot, there's a garden, there's a bunch of office buildings, there's an elevator. Like, there's nothing interesting going on, like, aesthetically in that game at all. All the aesthetics is just the combat, which, in my opinion, is a good thing. But it all depends on your perspective. Some people want, like, a really big visual spectacle, and other people just want the game to be fun. Alright, well, let's mess around with Streets 4. I'll play that game more later. A friend of mine gifted that to me, so it's not like I have an obligation to play it or make reviews for it or anything. No, that game's pretty cool. I'll probably play it more later, but I've had a very difficult day, so I kind of just want to relax.
Shiva.
Sometimes playing new games is not as fun as you'd like, because it's essentially like learning a new language.
Let's get it.
Bring it on!
Just like when people who speak like more than one language will default to their native, because it's a lot easier to do that. With me, it's like I play really technical heavy games, so sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I don't want to play a new game. I'm just gonna play something I already know. Yeah, I haven't played Mayhem Brawler. Yeah, it seemed to be the biggest complaint with Mayhem Brawler is it looks almost exactly like this game, but mechanically it's a lot less interesting. They didn't really do a whole lot to differentiate themselves. You know, this game's got its fair share of jank too, but the thing that's fun about it is it takes the genre to new heights. Even doing a basic mess around combo like that in most beat-em-ups is like unheard of. They tried to do more with it, but Mayhem Brawler was just instantly compared to Streets 4, and it just wasn't as interesting to play.
Cherry,
When your game looks exactly like something else, but it's not as interesting to play, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, having clones of games isn't really as bad as people like to say it is, but you know, if you're trying to stand out and your game doesn't stand out, well, I mean, that's kind of a problem if you ask me. Yeah, I played that over at my other job. It's fun. I might play that tonight too. Well, I feel bad for the people that made Mayhem Brawler. They weren't trying to copy Streets 4. I mean, I think they were working on the game like before that game was even announced, or like shortly after. It's like they had no way to know that the game is going to be looking very similar. But there's just so many games coming out in every genre you can think of. Kind of unfortunate reality is you're going to be compared to whatever the good game is that's out. It's even happening with like farming games now. Like every time somebody tries to make a Harvest Moon clone, it gets compared to Stardew Valley. It's not really anyone's fault. It's just, you know, it's just how things go these days. We definitely have to stand out a lot more as game dev these days. Yeah, it seemed to be the complaint with it. You know, there wasn't much of a reason to play it over this game. Which sucks, but, you know, it's just kind of the reality of it. The genre comes back after being dead on life support for so long. And someone comes out and makes a good game like it, you know, everything is going to get compared to that. It's not something that's done out of malice, it's just, you know, someone makes a good product. And now everything has to be up to that standard. You know, Stardew Valley, Steam didn't even want to publish that game. They didn't want it on their store because they thought that nobody would buy it. You know, it's a very niche genre, even more than, you know, beat-em-ups like this. There's very few people who like those kinds of games. It's mostly like, you know, non-gamers, people who don't like typical games. The game sold like millions of copies and pretty much revitalized that genre. You know, they're making like Harvest Moon games again and stuff. Now anybody else that tries to do that kind of thing, I'm sure they will do some things better, but they're going to get eternally compared to that. Because somebody made a good product that niche. I think with Mayhem Brawler, they didn't really keep sight of that. Unfortunately, when the bar gets raised, everybody's going to compare your product to it, better or worse. It's going to be happening with fighting games now. Well, Battle for the Grid and Skullgirls and Killer Instinct. You know, Strive has rollback now, so Strive and Melting Blood have rollback, so you put out a game now that does not have rollback, well, I can tell you what's going to happen. Nobody's going to want to play it. You're going to have to like convince them to play it because it's going to be a lot worse than what you already have access to. I mean, Grid was like one of the only active fighting games. Grid was like one of the only active fighting games you could play in like the heat of the pandemic. You couldn't play Smash. Smash has horrible netcode. Street Fighter is debatable. It does have rollback, but it's not a good implementation. Tekken's another one. Soul Calibur. Samurai Showdown came out like pretty much a couple months before the pandemic started. I'll tell you why that game died. It's nothing to do with the pandemic. Netcode. You can't, especially because Samurai Showdown is like, it's not a combo game at all. It's very like the old ones, where it's a very reaction-heavy game. It's about making reads and punishing properly and stuff. And you can't do that when there's bad netcode. Ironically, I hate to say it, I'm not really a big Samurai Showdown fan, but if they had made that one more combo-heavy, it probably would have worked a little better with that bad netcode, but it just doesn't work. You make a game where you want me to react to things accordingly, and it's not like a big combo game at all. There's lots of single hits and like maybe like 3-hit combos in that game. It's not the focus. But the netcode hasn't let me do that. I mean, I play Grid online, several times a week on these night streams, and I play that game offline. I play that game offline, and it's no different because the netcode is so good in that game. Yeah, Extreme Versus kind of got killed by the netcode too. It also like never goes on sale. It's a very hard game to get into. I couldn't get into that game. I tried. I ended up not liking it, but I feel like even if I did, the netcode would have really prevented me. The Battle for the Grid does everything right in terms of functionality. Things that Grid fails in are things that don't matter as much because the community can pick up the slack. Grid has shitty single-player content. It's basically purely a competitive game. It's not a good game if you like single-player content. But competitively, it has everything you need. It has good netcode, full crossplay, rollback. It has lobbies, it has spectating. Like, the only thing that game's missing competitively is replays, but we have modern consoles, you can just record your whole stream and stuff. It's not really that big of a deal. Well, crossplay is really hard to implement. It can be arguably harder than rollback, because rollback is basically just having people on your team or commissioning somebody to do your netcode for you. The problem with crossplay is negotiating with all the companies and stuff, which apparently is getting easier ever since Fortnite did it, but it's still not easy because a lot of it is out of your hands. And Grid definitely suffers from that. I think Grid Grid as a game really suffers from the problems of having crossplay. They can't fix things fast at all. Everything has to be fixed at exactly the same time. And they're a really small studio. They're actually like not that far from me. They're in LA. Like I could probably take a Greyhound over there if I wanted to, if I had some reason to. They're a small company, so it's really hard for them to manage. They don't have the benefit that a lot of the other small games have, where it's like, hey, we'll fix this on PC. You know, it's like, oh, this soft locks or something. Hey, we'll fix this on PC in an hour, but you gotta wait 2 weeks on console. They don't even have that luxury. I honestly think it's pretty pathetic that Grid is like so much better functionality-wise than like a lot of the other fighting games. Like you guys got bodied by ancient rich Japanese companies got bodied by a small indie studio making a Power Rangers fighting game. That doesn't tell you there's something wrong with fighting game developers. I don't know what else to say. You don't have to like Power Rangers, you don't have to like the mechanics of Grid. Grid is a very divisive game, it's not good looking. You know, it's not really a popular IP outside of like Mighty Morphin and stuff. But that game has what you need to be taken seriously. Especially in a post-pandemic world where you can't get around it with the usual stuff the fighting game community has done, which is just play it offline. Pandemic put a stop to that for the most part, outside of like, you know, small gatherings with like somebody who's vaccinated. But large tournaments and stuff came to an end, meetups. Made it really hard to play fighting games. Those games don't have a good experience. Oh, the voices don't help either, definitely. The lack of voices. Although they did say that, like, adding voice acting would have, like, increased the budget by a ton. And those guys don't come cheap. Also, the Smash community like to shit on Nick All-Stars being very toxic towards that game. It's like, well, you don't have to like the game. It's fine if you don't like it, but you can't deny that it has a better online experience than Smash does.
I'm no daddy.
Smash is a mess online. Especially with how tight timing is in that game. The netcode does not do it any favors. Also, people keep comparing it to Smash when it was made by like 10 people. Like, you shouldn't be worshipping Smash, you should be like sad that a game made by 9 people with no voice acting has better netcode than your AAA Smash Brothers masterpiece. Like, especially post-pandemic. Grid didn't have voice acting when it came out either. They didn't add that in until like, I think the end of the first season. Grid only had 9 characters. And 9 characters had no voice acting and couldn't block low online. Look at that game now, it's like, for just playing the game, it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but just playing it, it's like, still one of the best post-pandemic fighting games. It's got what counts. It doesn't have like 80 characters and unlockable crazy single-player grind modes or anything, which I would love if they had all those things, but I also understand it's made by a small team. I don't know anything about Nick All-Stars, though. Seems like people are mixed on whether they like how it plays. But I'm not a platform fighter player, so I don't have any opinion on it. Oh, hello, friends. It's a party in here all of a sudden. I'm liking my little custom mode I made here. Fun. Just need to beat this, and I think I can release it as is. It's pretty fun. It's not meant to be challenging. You know, you wanna relax a bit,
Cherry?
not get pissed off. I should play some Grid tonight too. Play some Grid tonight. I haven't touched the new patch. Now I can use Adam's Super without having guilt. That's nice. Definitely could have won some of those matches if I wasn't so stubborn. Wanting to play with honor. A game where people rage quit, even though you lose when you rage quit. That's on me. Soft lock? Well, this is why I didn't release this yet. Soft locked. Alright, well, I guess it's time for grid. I'll have to figure out why this happens. Nope. That was fun while it lasted. I'm guessing it didn't like how many enemies were spawned there and the triggers stopped working or something. Well, that's why you test your stuff before you release it. It's been fine up until that point. I might have to, like, figure out exactly why that happens. There's been a lot of mods made for that. Custom game modes and stuff. I'll probably have to ask them. Well, that's kind of what I was doing anyway. It's kind of beta testing. Seeing if it actually works, which it does until this second half of the game.
I've waited for this for millions of years! Caramelize!
Shall we dance? Follow my lead. Here's the finale. Over here. Slipstream. Over here. Shall we dance? Follow my lead. Here's the finale. My What I seek is a use for my power beyond fighting.
The name's Scorpina, and I...
3, 2, 1, fight!
Sweet
Shall we dance?
Shall we dance? Over here.
It's morphin' time!
Hunto! Hunto
Time for action.
Megazord, ready.
Every frog has his day.
No, there was no balance. No balance at all. They nerfed Adam slightly. They did not do any rebalancing. Problem with Adam is he was broken in a good and bad way. Good because he's strong, he has good mix-ups, he had a lot of moves, a lot of options. He can do crazy-ass combos, but he was also broken in the bad way because you couldn't use the super without lagging the game, so... Maybe that's why they didn't nerf him too much. Kinda didn't work.
Sometimes the most important
So you guys don't
is
see
the battle within.
the lag because I was playing the game on PC. It did that on every console version of the game.
Formation sword.
Sweet
Quantum leap. Vaporize. Formation airblade. Shall we dance? Follow my lead. Here's the finale.
Cat Ranger.
I'm surprised that wasn't a rage quit. He gave up. He had honor.
That's how we do it.
Gave up there
Cat
at the
Ranger
end.
style.
A lot of people do that in the fighting games. They play zoning heavy teams and they just give up when you get through it. It's like, you know, there aren't any like pure zoning characters in this game at all. Everybody can go in and do damage. Kind of got to learn both. Have a backup.
Shall we dance? Follow my lead. Here's the finale. Slipstream over here. Out of Slipstream over here. Out of the way. Shall we dance? Follow my lead. Here's the finale. good fight. Thanks. Next time, let's make it a great one.
Alright, you know what it's time for. I wasn't expecting a rage quit tonight, but... Alright. Good grid session if I made somebody rage quit. There you go. Time for the Ninja National Anthem.
Three, two, one, fight!
Now, Blizzard!
Shall we dance? Follow my lead.
Here's the emergency! Check this out!
Give me some cover. Up here. Slipstream over here.
Yeah. Payback. Oh, nice cross up. Nice. Come on, you can bring it back. Bring it back. Bring the sexy back. There you go.
Are you up to the top?
Shoryuken!
Cat stunners!
Megazord, ready! Powered up!
Oh man. Didn't block low. That was a good match. See, that's what happens when you don't rage quit. You can still win. You need to not give up. Don't give in so quickly. Damn, he was really high ranked too. I want to play him again.
Fight!
Formation sword.
Formation sword.
Maximum quantum leap. Formation sword.
Hadouken!
Pressing for you.
Honto! Hadouken! Powered up!
Every frog has his day.
I'm not afraid to lose. I'm afraid to give up.
2, 1, fight!
Quantum leap.
Time for action.
Hadouken!
I'm motivated.
I forgot he says that sometimes.
Formation Airblade. Help! Over. Shall we dance? Follow my lead.
Time for
Here's the
action.
finale.
Victory is fun!
Quantum power. Formation sword.
Ooh, nice. That was sick. I like that.
Quantum leap. Formation sword. I need more quantum power.
Quantum Divide. This character's been nerfed like 3 times, by the way. Look at this.
Sequence.
Nerfed 3 times, by the way. Just in case you forgot. The beauty of this game. They neuter characters and they're still like... Any of them would be the best character in like any other fighting game. Well, that turned around really fast, huh?
I'll handle this more
Alright,
myself.
you win. I think you won the game.
See ya. Formation sword.
Alright, get your combo video.
Quantum leap.
You earned it.
Quantum leap. Formation sword. Quantum leap. Quantum leap. I need more quantum power.
He and Doggy Kruger got like nerfed the most. I mean, look at what they can still do.
I've got a mission. Anyone who gets in my way is gonna be sorry.
And RJ got nerfed really bad too. He's still really strong. I love this game. Really the only fighting game I play anymore. I feel bad for the Japanese players that can't play this without importing. It's like, dude, this is your childhood. Super Sentai has been the childhood of Japan for like 45 years. They legally can't play this game. They can't buy it on their store, they have to import it. There's a couple Japanese players that play it. It's funny to see them refer to the characters by their original names, not the Power Rangers names.
Give me some cover! Be right back!
That's a pretty weird interaction.
I'll be back!
Have been warned.
Shall we dance?
Ah, come on. Wow. Oh, Zora too. That's all on me. This match is over. Got a hit there, but nice EX. Yeah, I think he won this one, dude.
Powered up.
Intense stick down. Yeah. You guys hear about the Dragon Ball game that got announced today? It's like Dead by Daylight, but with powerless Dragon Ball characters. It looks really weird. Like, it's like the exact same thing as Dead by Daylight. You know, you have like just the normal people, and then you have like, you know, Jason and shit. It's the same thing, but it's like Cell and Frieza and Boo and stuff. And it's being made by the people who do Xenoverse 2, so the Xenoverse community is in shambles right now. Which, I mean, it's not totally unwarranted, but I don't see that doing well. I really don't. You know, with like Dead by Daylight and the games that are like that, you know, it's basically like how that source material actually is. You know, you have like one person or like a small group of people who are threatening, and then everybody else is just an everyman. They don't have any powers. They're not like skilled martial artists or fighters or anything. Like that concept works better there. But like Dragon Ball, I mean, you play that to do crazy martial arts shit. And I don't know. I don't see it doing well, really. It's a nice idea, but I think it's the wrong IP to do it with. Yeah. Well, I can tell you right now, Xenoverse 2 is gonna outlive that game. I just don't think there's much of an audience for it. And people have already kind of like not been liking Dead by Daylight that much lately. I don't know anything about that game, but I know there's been a lot of things they've changed in that game that people don't like. And I don't think there's a lot of crossover either. I mean, a lot of the appeal of Dead by Daylight is they have like actual horror villains in there. Well, they've been supporting Xenoverse 2 for like 5 years. And it's crazy how much content is in that game now because I bought that game at launch. I played through the whole thing on PS4 and I never really went back to it, but I was playing it on Switch today and I got all the DLC on sale like months ago. I just never got around to playing it until now. It definitely did feel like they were gearing up for Xenoverse 3, but they're gonna make a Dead by Daylight with Dragon Ball characters instead. I don't know. It's just like a lot of those online only games have been dying really fast. Even the Rocket Blade Point. I was talking about that last night. Like that game is only doing well in Asia. It's completely died in every other region. And the netcode doesn't really allow you to play with the people from other countries. So I wouldn't call it on life support, but I mean the game barely functions. And people are hacking and stuff and they're not doing anything about it. It's just when you make a clone of like a popular competitive game, like usually what happens is you can't beat it. You can't pull people away from it, even if your game does a lot better, does things a lot better, at least certain things better. Like, it's still going to be compared to the original. I mean, there's been a lot of battle royales that have died too. Like, after Player Unknown Battlegrounds got popular, like, dozens of them, but they're all dead. And if they're not dead, they're at the point where, like, barely anybody is playing them, and those games are it's really hard for those games to survive. It's like just because it was the flavor of the month for a couple years, like those games need like thousands of players to function. So I wish them luck, but I really think it's not going to work. Even if it was something people wanted, which it seems like most people don't want it, it's got all those things against it. You know, Skullgirls is still around today. It's getting new content and stuff after a long hiatus. Like, thing about fighting games is they're like the easiest competitive video games to like stay alive with only a couple hundred people playing. But when they started doing battle royales and stuff, it kind of threw all that out the window. You have to have so many people on concurrently for the game to even function. Remember when they tried to make a sequel to The Culling? That was like a popular battle royale for a while. They tried to make a sequel to it and nobody was playing it. No, it got so bad they had to shut it down and go back to the first game. Like, I think executives and stuff. They get a little bit blinded by how much money Fortnite and PlayerUnknown make. It's like, well, good luck cutting into that fan base. And you have to keep people interested too, otherwise your game literally does not function. You don't have any single player content to fall back on. I'm sure Xenoverse 3 is coming, yes. It's just not coming right now. No, the problem with Xenoverse 3 is it kind of has the problem that Dynasty Warriors and Star Wars games have, where there's only so many different ways you can do the exact same major events and battles and stuff. That's something that Star Wars and Dynasty Warriors has dealt with, and they kind of already covered everything. And there's not enough new Dragon Ball content coming out fast. Dragon Ball Super's been off the air for a while, I think. It's pretty much only been going on in the manga. I feel like they're in the same position that One Piece, the One Piece games have always been in, where it's like they've already portrayed like most of the stuff that happened in the source material, but the source material comes out so slowly that they could crap out another game, but they'd have to do like filler stuff. And weebs don't like filler. I mean, which is understandable. Dragon Ball is notorious for filler. Naruto had filler for like months. So did Bleach. And a lot of people stopped watching. So they have the problem of like, it's like obviously they want another Xenoverse, but there's not enough original content to really make one at this time. At best, they've got like a couple movies and maybe the stuff in the manga, but I don't think that's enough to warrant another game. They don't have the benefit that like Star Wars and Dynasty Warriors have. Those series have that exact same problem. They don't have the benefit of like people like original stuff. People like the original stuff they've done for Star Wars lately. People hated the movies. People hated the movies, but then like the Mandalorian and stuff, those series did really well. People generally don't like that when they do that with anime, mostly because it's just associated with filler. It's like, instead of just taking the show off, giving the people who make it a break, we're just gonna make a bunch of useless filler. Like Naruto's gonna go save a cat or something. That's something I'd watch, but people that wanted to like actually continue, there's just nothing going on. But I really think that survival game they announced today, it's just like the executives thinking that it's going to make a lot of money, and probably won't. I give it a few months, because that's not what people play Dragon Ball games for. That's the thing. That's the difference between that and like Dead by Daylight, where a lot of the appeal is you're playing powerless people, just regular everymen, um, against like actual horror villains and stuff from the movies. But Dragon Ball, there's a really big disconnect there. Like nobody wants to play as Bulma and Oolong and run away and hide and stuff. Like survival games and shit work because they don't have like big IPs tied to them. There's been lots of games like that, like Disaster Report and stuff. Those are cool games if you're into that, but they don't have like Cell running around and Frieza like doing giant kamehamehas and blowing up buildings. Yeah, and I don't think people would really like that. I don't think they would. It's a big ask. I don't know much about supplemental Star Wars, not Star Wars, but Dragon Ball content, but it doesn't seem as well received as like when Star Wars does that kind of thing. That was one of the things that people hated about Star Wars is they wiped all that stuff from existence when the new movies came out, and then people didn't like the new movies. Star Wars is in like the opposite situation where it's like nobody cared about the movies. People gave the first one a chance, but then the other two kind of burned through any goodwill they had left. People really like the side content, the stuff that's like not related to the main popular characters. But when you try to do that with anime, people just don't like it in general. People hate it with One Piece, they hate it with Dragon Ball. The content reset, yeah. It definitely would be a lot like most Star Wars games. It's like, okay, you buy a Star Wars game, like, okay, I'm going to be doing the trench battle. I'm going to be doing the Battle of Hoth. I'm going to be using the snow speeder to knock the ATSTs over. Like the only thing that's changed is like uh, technology lets them make that stuff more realistic, but you really have been doing the same thing since like the 80s. And Dynasty Warriors has that same problem too. The thing with Dynasty Warriors is they have like they have the benefit of they can only make so many characters playable. So if they add one and it gives like a different viewpoint or is from like a different era, then they can still make it fresh even though it's still been the same battles for 20 years. I'll be right back. I don't know, man. What's the consensus on Ultra Ego Vegeta or whatever the hell it's called? What's the consensus on that? Do people actually like that? So apparently he just gets bodied like right after he gets the new form. Which I mean, that's common for Vegeta. Vegeta's always been like that, but I don't know. It's just like why even give him a new form?
いつ
あれだねフルル。
そうやってやる。つらいな。レンガ弾火力乗ってきたぜ。下がりこっからだぜ。腹終わったら空想だよな。タンカン見える。レンガ弾はめるな。注文されすぎだろ俺。
Here's Ultra Ego Mantis. Need to put him in a game. Dragon Ball game. Got your Ultra Ego right here. Yeah, they don't seem to want Vegeta to, like, actually make any development, like, fighting-wise. The whole thing about Vegeta is he's very prideful, and he doesn't want to accept, you know, somebody's better than him, which is something that's very relatable. He's a very relatable character, despite being an alien that can level planets and stuff. That's a very relatable thing, like, accepting that somebody's always going to be better than you at something. And, you know, he gets to the point where he doesn't view Goku as an enemy anymore. They're like friends, and they can be friendly rivals, and they help each other out. Even to the point where he gets married and has a kid. But then, like, when it comes to actually fighting things, they always just want him to be a jobber. And I feel like I could see why people would not like that they did that again. Because that's been a repeat thing with Vegeta in Dragon Ball history. Well, Dragon Ball is kind of a lot like Metroid in that way, where they seem to be scared of giving characters that aren't the main character, like, any kind of relevance. You know, they tried that with Metroid, too, in Prime 3 with the Bounty Hunters. The problem was it had Star Wars prequel syndrome, where it's like, you know, they're new characters, and it takes place before previous entries of the series. And you don't see or hear of any of those characters, so it's like, the obvious outcome is they're all dead. They're dead, or they have some other reason to not be around. But with Dragon Ball, they seem like scared to give anybody but Goku, like, long-term relevance. And I mean, Vegeta's been around just as long as Goku at this point. The Dragon Ball writing's never really been that great anyway, but if I still actively follow Dragon Ball like when I was younger, it probably would piss me off too. They always want him to be like 10 steps behind Goku. Even though Goku, I mean, Vegeta's a better father. Vegeta learned to have, like, family values and shit. Be there for his family when they need it. But anything involving combat, he's just a jobber. It's really weird that situation has not changed since the original Dragon Ball Z content like 30 years ago. It's just like, they just keep repeating it. Like, dude, the guy grew from a loner to a successful father and a husband. Like, let the dude, like, win in a fight for once. Instead of always being the sidekick. I don't know, I haven't watched Dragon Ball since Z, but I know that they keep repeating that whole thing with Vegeta.
ここなら煮炊きできそうだな。
I don't know. I don't envy the people that have to make forms to sell toys for Dragon Ball. You have so little to work with. Pretty much just slender male martial artists. Like, they don't have any cool costumes or armor or anything. They're either wearing nothing or like a very light karate gi. That's it.
確実について
But
る。
they have to sell toys and stuff. So here's Ultra Ego Vegeta with, you know, his hair is like a different color of neon. He doesn't really have anything interesting about him. It's just another form. But then they have to make a toy for Vegeta, who historically always just jobs and loses because the writers don't want him to really get anywhere. That must be even worse.
雰囲気が変わった。油断するな。
Like Super Sentai and stuff has that problem too, like where they barely make monster figures and stuff because people just want the riders or the rangers. Even though the villains have cool designs too, but they don't sell. It was, yeah, because it looked different. But people didn't like GT as a whole, so I guess they feel like it's toxic to try to add on to that. I don't know. Like, Dragon Ball characters look cool, but when they started trying to make it more
クルルに反応あり。
like tokusatsu, where characters have like multiple forms and upgrades and stuff, like they kind of like wrote themselves into a corner because the character template doesn't allow for that versus like tokusatsu like Ultraman and Sentai and Rider and Garo and stuff. Like you have like a lot more to work with because they're fully armored characters, which gives you a lot more freedom with your character design. But when it's just buff but slender dudes that are martial artists wearing nothing, I mean, there's not really a lot of creative freedom there. That's why. At least Ultra Instinct, he had like a different fighting style from what I understand. Where it's more like predicting about what the enemy is going to do. So even though he doesn't look that much different. Even though he doesn't look that much different, because just Goku is not really a character design you have a lot of freedom with. Like, he fights differently, and the fighting style is cool, so people like it for the most part.
お友達がいるの？
お手並み拝見といこう。
この調子でいきましょう。
魚影、今見えただろ。
Even like Captain America,
あいつをぶっ飛ばせばいいんだ
he's got a lot more, a lot easier to sell toys to him than Goku and Vegeta. Because in most appearances, he actually is wearing a costume, so they can make him look different,
ここ
even
なら
though
煮炊きできそうだな
he's just a juiced up guy. You know, he's not really that much different than Dragon Ball characters. But
だよ頼まれてたやつが
they wanted the Dragon Ball characters to be like wearing nothing, like pretty much from the start. So they can change the hair color and take off like their eyebrows.
さあ行くぞ
That's it.
世代だ
Not a lot to work with.
あの岩って
バーンストライク確実についてる
なんか機嫌いいな。
今のは高ぶったな
フルルお友達がいるのフル
It'd be interesting to see the player numbers of that Dragon Ball Breakers game. Probably have like a
一
couple
休みしないか
thousand,
魚影今
like
見えただろ
20,000 or something maybe, and then it'll die off within like the first month, even that. I just don't think it's something that Dragon Ball fans will resonate with, even if they do pull it off.
突破するぞ俺おとりかよ
Horror game fans like Dead by Daylight, at least they did for a while. I don't know how that game's doing now, but
怒涛のこうも飛び回ら
分かってるわ私が
I mean that game is not really about power fantasy.
確実についてる
Like the whole appeal to it is that you don't have power.
Huh.
風に乗ってひとっ飛び
Oh yeah, the card game. I don't think anybody really ever played that.
たらよかったのに。
I don't know. I actually feel for the development team. They probably don't want to make that game either. It's probably Namco trying to cash in on the battle royale craze, which is pretty much dead right now anyway. It's pretty much Fortnite at the top, and then there's PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, which is still doing okay, but it's like doing a lot worse than Fortnite. That's how executives of companies think. Sometimes they're really smart, and they get on top of things like right when they're popular, and they strike when it's hot and it's successful. But then other times they keep trying to cling on to trends that aren't doing too well. Actually, I forgot Call of Duty Warzone too. Like that one does really well too, but PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is way below those two. So you try to make a game like that now. I mean, there's always a chance. It's just like this channel, there's a lot of it is just luck. I just think making it a survival game was kind of a dumb idea. If they had made it a battle royale and it had like good melee combat, I think people would have at least give it a chance. Like they had a battle royale with like Xenoverse combat or something. Um, because that's still an untapped market. Battle royale that doesn't involve guns in any way, shape, or form. They've had two attempts at that: Hunter's Arena Legends and Naraka Blade Point. Both of those games made some pretty crucial mistakes. That would have made more sense, I think. It still wouldn't probably do too well, but it'd be more in line with what people expect from Dragon Ball. Star Wars games, they have the luxury of like they've made a lot of games in Star Wars where you're not a Jedi. You're just a regular ass stormtrooper, or you're somebody from the Resistance or something. Like people are already like accustomed to that idea that like not every Star Wars game has to be, your Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader. They kind of distance themselves from only being limited to that really early on. They had all the X-Wing games and stuff where you're just some regular ass guy. You had the racing games and stuff. But Dragon Ball has never really tried to do that, and I mean for good reason. Dragon Ball is quite a bit more high octane than anything Star Wars does. But trying to do it now when people are not accustomed, they don't want that. It's like I don't get it. It feels like trying to generate interest for something that people don't have in the first place. Well, I think I'm done for now, folks. I think I'm gonna keep trying to end stream earlier, and it's been helping with my stress levels and stuff. I think I'll stop there. Should be on again in the afternoon, I think. Probably play some more Grid and Unsold. I'll catch you guys later.